There's a ton of noise out there. So how do you get decision makers to pay attention to your brand? Start a podcast and invite your ideal clients to be guests on your show. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to the B2B Growth Show, a podcast dedicated to helping B2B executives achieve explosive growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. I'm James Carberry.
And I'm Jonathan Green.
Let's get into the show. Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. We are here today with Brian Carroll. He is the founder and CEO at Markempa. Brian, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited to chat with you, Brian. We were talking offline about a topic that is very near and dear to both of us. It's empathy. And we're going to be talking about empathy-based marketing today. But before we get into that, I'd love for our listeners to just have a little bit of context as to why you're the guy to be talking about this. So tell us about Markempa and what you guys are doing over there.
So I founded Markempa really out of frustration that all the work I did, I worked in lead generation for the complex sales for 20 years. And all this effort and energy in generating leads, 1% to 2% of marketing generated leads actually become customers. And so I started digging into why. And what I found is it's the motivation of our customer. It's how they feel. And we most marketers, there's research from Forrester and others that marketers struggle actually predicting the next best step for their customer and having that intuitive sense. So what we do is help companies understand really what motivates their customers so they can better connect and ultimately help them on their journey. And for us as marketers and sellers, we want conversion, but what our customers want is they need help, and they need people who can have the insights to help them accomplish what they need to do.
Got it. Talk to us about why empathy. Why is this so important? Why do marketers need to care about this?
Well, first of all, right now, we as marketers and sellers have a trust gap with our customers. So HubSpot just did a study, found 3% of customers actually trust sellers or marketers. So we have that. The other thing is that it's gotten incredibly hard for customers in B2B to buy. As hard as it is for us as B2B to sell, it's even harder for our customers to buy, because what's happened is the complexity has increased and the emotional cost of making a bad decision has increased, and people have to run a gauntlet. It is very difficult. And so why empathy matters is that we spend so much of our time trying to do marketing and selling to our customers instead of actually doing it with our customers, because they need to sell the idea of change inside their companies. And the problem is most of the time, we don't have a full understanding of their world and their current experience to actually see things from their point of view and how they think and how they're feeling to help that journey. And most of the work that happens is value proposition, bring it into the company and how it's going to help someone's work. But what we miss, and the biggest opportunity, CEB did a study, just found that customers' personal cost, how they're impacted personally, if we can connect with that personal value, that increases the likelihood of conversion by over 200%, and the likelihood someone's going to pay a premium. So that's why empathy matters. It helps us get that understanding. It's super practical.
Got it. Okay. So if that's kind of the underlying concept there, Brian, the next step is, what can you actually do to start taking action on this, to apply empathy-based marketing into what you're doing, into your interaction with prospects, with customers? What are the next steps here?
Well, for marketers, I think it really comes down to empathizing with your customers' feelings and problems by going into their world to understand. So here's what I mean. These are really practical things. I'm talking about using things and skills like empathetic listening. So getting into the world of your customer, and third-year listening therapists call it, but what you're trying to do is listen for what is behind what is being said. Okay. So often we listen to what, with the intent to respond and convince, but we need to dig deeper. The other thing is marketers, if you have business development reps, sales development reps, listen to the calls customers are having. It's so amazing the amount of emotional content that's in those conversations that gets missed. And a great tool is something that I didn't create, but I've been using. IDEO and Stanford D School has something called empathy maps. And so I created a version of that, which is mapping 4 things. What are your customers saying right now in their current status quo experience? What are they doing right now? So you can right now on a sheet of paper draw 4 quadrants. What are they saying? What are they doing? And then on the other side, that's what you can see. Internal world is what we can't see. And this is where empathy helps us have our intuition. Your empathy is your marketing and selling intuition, is understanding what are they thinking and what are they feeling. And so those are things practically we can do right now.
I love it. I love it. And so you had shared offline, Brian, that there are a lot of companies succeeding. One particular example you gave was Slack. Can you talk to us about empathy being, a core value for Slack? Talk to us about, I think if other people can see like, okay, this actually works.
Yeah.
So tell us the Slack story and any other stories that you think would be helpful.
So I'll quick bring up, so Stuart Butterfield just talked about empathy. It's actually a core value. They're the fastest growing startup in history, the fastest to 2 billion. And he just started, it's really difficult to design something for someone unless you have empathy. So Slack actually does not do any email marketing. They have this community of users, and it's actually a core value. They hire employees for empathy. It's part of the culture. And what they want to do is take care of people inside so they can actually focus on what's happening outside. And so they're a great example. Drift is another company that is disruptive. They're seeing exponential growth.
I love
the
that
VP of
brand.
marketing talked about to the CEO. The CEO said, why is it that we're protecting our content behind forums? It really isn't helping our customers, is it? Why don't we make that content available? Because what they were seeing is, and if you notice in Drift strategy, they're one of the companies I profile. Actually, IBM right now is gearing up to become the world's largest design company. And they're doing boot camps where employees learning how to apply their empathy to connect better with colleagues and clients. And they're doing this to tap in their customers' feelings. And finally, if you read the authorized Steve Jobs biography, Mike Mercola, before Apple, when the Apple II launched, Steve Jobs didn't know anything about marketing. And Mike Mercola, the very first value, the very first thing in Apple's marketing plan was empathy.
Interesting.
And the focus was this. And you'll see Steve Jobs, I feel, accomplished this, which is we're going to understand our customers' needs and motivations better than anyone else. And I think they've done an extraordinary job of that. So those are just some examples of empathy-based companies.
I love it. And so obviously when you understand why customers are behaving a certain way, when you understand how they're thinking about different decisions that they're making kind of below the surface, that's one of the big takeaways that I'm taking away from this conversation, Brian, is going deeper. And I loved what you said about not just listening to what they're saying, but listening to what's behind what they're saying. And when you can understand those nuances, it makes perfect sense that you can cater your messaging to meet that. You can cater different features of your product to meet that. You mentioned Drift. One thing that I just saw an article that they put out the other day. I love the brand they're building. We've had their director of marketing on our podcast. We're about to have their VP of growth on our show in the next couple of weeks. One thing they did, they talked about 4 reasons that their customers churn. And so that authentic, very transparent approach to saying, this is why people actually leave us, and this is what we're doing to fix it. Do you think that transparency and empathy are simpatico? Where do you see the relationship between companies that really emphasize transparency and companies that get empathy as well?
Well, I think that totally. So yes. Because authenticity and being genuine. And part of what I get to do is I interview customers about their experience of their buyer's journey. And I'll quickly, like a CEO talked about, is when someone feels like you're their advocate, and partly that means that we are straight up and we talk about our weaknesses and everything in marketing inside us. We want to look good. We want to be the leading company. But the thing is we all know we're imperfect, and we all have areas of growth. And so what I found, and this actually I use in my own consulting, is I talk about my clients know they're guinea pigs. This is a whole new science. There isn't research in this area. We are breaking new ground together. And so there's this thing of talking about upfront what you can't do, where you're not successful, or, who you aren't best working with. It's amazing because you're much more believable.
When you're sharing the warts and you're upfront about sharing those, people think, there's just this trust factor.
Yes.
And so I read that blog post from Drift, and I'm a Drift customer, and I saw that and I go, oh my gosh, these guys get it. Like you nailed it, Brian. You said people want to work with somebody that is advocating for them. Yep. And what better way to showcase that you are an advocate for your customers than to put front and center why customers leave and what you're doing to fix it. You're recognizing that you see it and you're actually taking action on it, as opposed to the brand that pretends like the warts aren't there. We all know that, in every business, customers churn. Totally. So why not shine a light on it? And I see a lot of synergy between transparency and empathy. They seem to be very interconnected. So curious to hear your thoughts. I appreciate you sharing that. Brian, is there anything else? You obviously do a lot of talking about empathy-based marketing, and I want listeners to really, I want them to stay connected with you, because we can't, there's not enough time in this interview for you to go in depth of all you've learned. But if there was one takeaway as it related to empathy-based marketing, what would you want the listener hearing this to walk away with after listening to our conversation today?
I'm going to leave with one thought I'll call the golden rule of empathy-based marketing. And it's this. Instead of the golden rule, which is treat others as you want to be treated, what empathy-based marketing is treating your customers the way they want to be treated. And to know that, though, it means you need to actually dig in and really seek to understand and understand the motivations. And, the best marketing selling feels like helping because it is.
Yeah.
And so that's really the motivation intent behind what I'm trying to do.
I love it. Brian, my last question, what is the legacy that you want to leave?
So when I talk with marketers, I hear the same things over and over again about impact, which is I want to feel like what I'm doing is making impact that isn't top line or bottom line, but that I'm actually making a real difference. And what's behind that is they want to feel that they aren't just the lead machines, that they aren't just the company, the individuals looking at pipeline, but that they actually are helping transform how their organizations connect with customers. And they want to feel good about what they're doing, that they're really making a difference. And so that's what drives me too, that it's an inside out instead of an outside in approach to connecting with customers. So that's the impact I want to leave.
I love it. Brian, if there's somebody listening to this, they want to stay connected with you, they want to learn more about Markempa, what's the best way for them to go about doing that?
They can go to markempa.com, markempa.com, and find out more.
I love it. Awesome, Brian. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
To ensure that you never miss an episode of the B2B Growth Show, subscribe to the show in iTunes or your favorite podcast player. This guarantees that every episode will get delivered directly to your device.
If you'd like to connect with B2B executives from all over the world, make sure to join our private Facebook community. There are some incredible conversations happening inside this group. To join, visit b2bgrowthshow.com/FB.
Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.